Hello, Internet, and welcome to Clique Theory, hosted by yours truly, a very disgruntled 21 Pilots fan who's really irked that the Blurryface couldn't have tweeted before I finalized my timeline of Blurryface events after hours, days, and weeks of researching and sorting through archives. But I digress. Blurryface tweeted again, saying, "A new take won't make them love it." But then the Mute Myth sessions were released on the 21 Pilots website, and we did love it, by the way. At least I did. Why do you think this theory took me so long to make? True, a lot of this time was spent poring over lyrics, contextualizing really vague lines, trying to get into the artistically genius mind of Tyler Joseph. But seriously, whenever I wasn't slaving away over hidden song meanings over winter break, I was bopping to the Tear in My Heart remix. Today, however, we're going to be focusing on the song analysis portion of the way I've been spending my time as of late, because in order to figure out who Blurryface is and what he wants, we have to look at the Blurryface album itself. It's true that we can learn a lot about Blurryface as a character through the Twitter account, but it's not the only medium we're exposed to him with. He's the namesake of the album and portrayed in it as a low-pitched Tyler voice we hear everywhere in the music. Today, I'm going to be taking you on a journey through the Blurryface album, digging deep into the lyrics of the songs, the placement, the history of 21 Pilots music, the timeline. That's right, folks. It's time for a Blurryface album theory. As with most theories about the music and the message you might stumble across, please take what I have to say about Blurryface with a grain of salt. I'm going to try my best to keep everything as open-ended as possible and keep my personal applications out of it, which shouldn't be too hard since this album especially is very vague and up for interpretation. Get ready, folks, because today we're looking for Blurryface, and like I've actually seen a lot of people do, we're going to start this album theory with Old Goner. Now, in case you're new to the Clique and haven't heard the millions of theories and interpretations people have for this video, let me fill you in. The first thing almost everyone notes about this video is that the creaking sound of the accordion Tyler uses, a very strange but very specific choice of instrument, sounds eerily like a swinging noose. The most widely accepted theory about this video is that it represents a suicide attempt of some kind, possibly a failed one, and the aftermath. And it makes sense. Tyler looks visibly shaken. He's seen yelling at himself. We hear Blurryface scream at the end, maybe in victory. And the video ends with Tyler hiding in the skeleton hoodie, in the beginning of Heavy Dirty Soul. That's a lot to take in. But if that seems a little too bleak for you, then have no fear, because that isn't my theory on Old Goner. This is. The video opens up on an empty, snowy street with shaky, unfocused shots of Tyler playing the accordion. We can see footprints in the snow, not just leading up to where Tyler is standing. Notice how they circle around a few times and branch off. It's safe to assume that Tyler is singing after something has already happened. But what happened? Well, I don't think people were really off in assuming that the creaking of the accordion was meant to represent the swinging of a noose. But my interpretation of that really specific detail is much different. As we've done before, I tried to dig into old songs and find references to a noose. The first thing that came to mind was Lovely, as people have mentioned that the creaking noise heard at the beginning sounds a bit like a sped-up noose. But that wasn't enough. I kept looking, skimming, until I found Holding On to You. Fight it. Take the pain, ignite it. Tie a noose around your mind, loose enough to breathe fine, and tie it to a tree. Tell it you belong to me. This ain't a noose, this is a leash, and I have news for you. You must obey me. The sound we hear in Old Goner isn't a reference to suicide. I firmly believe that Tyler attempted to take control of Blurryface once and for all before the video starts. We can see snippets of a struggle toward the end, a scuffle between Tyler and, well, himself. We hear Blurryface yell in anger, defeat, victory. And then as the video cuts out, we hear the beginning of Heavy Dirty Soul. Tyler tried to control Blurryface here. He and Blurryface fought, but as we can clearly see from the album that follows that confrontation, it didn't exactly work out as Tyler had planned. Alright, the very first track on the Blurryface album, here we go, is Heavy Dirty Soul, and it makes for the perfect opener. Right from the first line, there's an infestation in my mind's imagination. We have our story. We have the setting, Tyler's mind, his imagination, and we have the problem, the infestation, Blurryface. Blurryface is gaining on Tyler, taking more and more control, and Tyler is frantic. It shows from the fast-paced raps, the loud, blaring music, the crashing cymbals, and the relentless bass and synth. Heavy Dirty Soul is a musically ingenious cry for help, if there ever was one. Once it goes into the chorus, we can see how Tyler is reacting to this problem. Can you save my heavy dirty soul for me? He's calling out for help. But from where? Could it be God, a search for spiritual help to cleanse his dirty, sinful soul? His fans who use the music he believes, as he stated before, justifies his career? his own music and the way he uses songwriting to understand his problems and defeat his demons? There are solid arguments toward all of these answers, and I honestly think they're all true. Plus, Tyler is no stranger to double meaning in his songs. Then we come to the bridge of the song, "Death inspires me like a dog inspires a rabbit." This alludes to a rabbit's alert, fearful nature, running from any supposed imminent threat, the slightest noise, anything. If Tyler is a rabbit, inspired to keep running by death, then the dog must be Blurryface, a metaphor that comes back into play. The next song is "Stressed Out," and before you roll your eyes and mutter something about mainstream music is gross and beg me to move on quickly, hear me out, because I made a discovery about a line in "Stressed Out" that we've all been overlooking since this song was released in 2015. The most iconic line from the entire album, the Blurryface mantra, the chilling, repeated line that we're all sick of, holds an incredibly important double meaning. Let me explain. The song opens up with Tyler picking apart his music, pointing out all the things he could have done better, all of his failings and mistakes, the things he's insecure about in his music and his career. He tells us that he thought growing up and becoming an adult would get rid of all his fears, but they're still here. He's still afraid and insecure, and he cares what people think about him, about his music, everything. And that's when we're formally introduced. My name's Blurryface, and I care what you think. The initial reaction we all have to this line is that it's driving home the point Tyler just made about caring about how people perceive him with regards to his fears and insecurities. But hang with me for a moment. Think about this. Have you ever done something new that really terrified you, that you didn't quite know what the outcome would be and all your fear just completely overtook your thoughts? Having anxiety myself, I'm far too familiar with running possible scenarios through my head of everything that could ever go wrong with just about everything I've ever made and put out into the world. Keep in mind, Tyler just exposed to us all of his concerns and insecurities about his music, something deeply important and personal to him, in a song that he's putting into the world for us. The stakes are high. The fear of people's reaction would be astounding, and I can only imagine the cyclical thinking he might have fallen into of imagining scenarios involving failure and mockery leading up to the release of the singles and then the album. The more you think about all of your failings, all the places you fall short, all the things you could have done better, the more powerful those fears and insecurities become, and the bigger the obstacles you face on the way to creating and accomplishing the things you're afraid to do seem. To put it bluntly, the more Tyler thinks about Blurryface, the stronger Blurryface becomes. Blurryface doesn't care what Tyler thinks about. All that matters is that Tyler is thinking about him, what he represents, because that gives him a tremendous amount of power over Tyler's head. The rest of the song drives home how difficult it is to live with such intense fears and obstacles, wishing for the days when you were young and innocent, when you could rest the weight of the world and all of your fears on your parents or teachers, any adults, rather than carry it on your own child self. You deal with that when you were older, and then suddenly you are older and you can't just put off facing with your problems anymore. Wake up, you need to make money. Then the dog and rabbit metaphor comes back into play. We used to play pretend bunny. Blurryface is acknowledging that Tyler is the rabbit in this situation and repeats the bridge in his creepy, low-pitched demon voice, almost taunting Tyler with the control he has as the dog who inspires him. Next up is Ride, and because I've already done an entire video decoding the song, link in the description, I'll give you a basic rundown of what I discovered. In the first verse, Tyler laments about how difficult it is to stay in the sun and find peace, to be happy and positive, or even just to be good. The chorus tells us he's falling, so he's taking his time on his ride. And through extensive research into other songs that involve automobiles, I came to the conclusion that if Tyler took the metaphorical passenger seat of his mind, Blurryface would be the one at the wheel. And as you can probably guess, that's not a good thing. As I also mentioned in my ride video, the way Fairly Local is set up afterwards and the fact that it features more direct dialogue from Blurry himself drives home my point that at the end of Ride, Blurryface probably takes control of Tyler's mind, or at least he gets really close. The first verse of this song just lists off everything wrong with Tyler, his failings, the bad things he's done, his utter hopelessness of becoming a better man. And the second verse completely refutes that, parallels it almost word for word, with the only difference as being positive imagery. The contrast between fighting and resigning, of killing and saving. The first verse tells us he keeps the beat and repeats yesterday's dance, but he vows to change that beat in the second verse, to avoid it. It's almost like we're watching another aggressive confrontation between Tyler and Blurryface, especially in the music video with its cold, snowy setting and literal appearance of Blurryface. Cold, I should add, is often used as a metaphor for mental illness, especially for depression in literature, and in Tyler's songs. Warmth is always a good thing. The pieces of peace in the sun's peace of mind and ride, the fire your bones make grow that bring light into hometown, and so on. Whereas cold is always negative, a bad omen of sorts. We see it in Isle of Flightless Birds. I am cold, can you hear? In Fairly Local, it's the world around us is burning, but we're so cold. There's so much good in the world, so many untroubled people around us, but we're still struggling to get through the rough patches. We're the few, the proud, and the emotional. The overall message of Fairly Local is that Tyler is well acquainted with the darker places in life, the hopeless ruts we often find ourselves in. He once stated in an interview with Paper Mag, "I think Josh and I learned when we were traveling the world during the last album cycle that everyone's the same, everyone feels the same issues. So it's kind of a way of getting on the same level as these people and telling them, in a sense, we understand what you're going through." After that, we have Tear in My Heart, a song which Tyler has confirmed Blurryface is nowhere to be found in. And I have a pretty good idea why. It's obvious when you think about it. Blurryface disappears when Jenna is around because Jenna sees Blurryface for who he really is. Blurryface is Tyler. The character of Blurryface was made to represent Tyler's fears, insecurities, and demons, and to give them a named face and seat across the table. But they're his fears, insecurities, and demons. It's his head. Blurryface is Tyler, but Tyler is not Blurryface. Why is this important? Because Jenna loves him anyway. She cuts through his heart and looks into his soul. She sees all the raw, deep parts of Tyler's very being. She loves him anyway. His heart is his armor, and by hardening his heart, he keeps his soul well protected from the world, from scrutiny. But Jenna cuts through his defenses with ease and sees everything good and bad about Tyler. And she loves him anyway. The character of Blurryface doesn't stand a chance against that kind of power. Next we have Lane Boy, pretty much a giant middle finger at the music industry and pop culture as a whole, where Tyler admits that he knows there's a certain way people do things, and a certain way to monetize best, but he doesn't care. We go where we want to. He even shades the industry further by bringing the fleeting fame of radio hits into the mess, saying, will they be alive tomorrow? He also references back to a list he made in Ride, a list of people he would take a bullet for, and parallels it to another list that exists and no one really wants to think about this. We all have lists of people we would die for, but there's another list, a list of people we would kill. Once again, Tyler has drawn a sharp polarization between himself and his demons, what he wants versus what he ends up doing, creation and destruction, life and death. Another important piece of imagery shown in the Lane Boy music video, live performances, and even referenced in a lyric are the hazmat suits, one labeled fame, the other success. A notorious theory right now about these suits is that fame and success are portrayed this way because Tyler thinks these things are toxic, but I disagree. Fame and success are the hazmat suits. If these things are toxic, they wouldn't need to be in a hazmat suit because those protect you from toxins. So why the suits? And why these two ideas? Because they represent Tyler's fame and success, the band's fame and success. The whole song goes on about how messed up the industry is and how he doesn't want to get caught up in that kind of career or lifestyle. Fame and success are put into the hazmat suits to protect them from the toxic industry, to keep the band from becoming a money-hungry product of their record label, making fleeting but popular music and losing the meaning. And that kind of dedication is well and good, but it comes with a price. For example, when Tyler puts on his kimono, a traditionally feminine piece of clothing, the hazmats fall back a bit. At the end of the music video and performances, we see the hazmats fall to their knees in defeat. Tyler knows that by not conforming to pop culture standards, they're taking a big risk career-wise, and their fame won't last in the public eye. But it's still seen as a victory because Tyler prioritizes the message and his morality, both of which he successfully saves from the industry's toxic touch. Then we have The Judge, which opens up with a very cryptically poetic verse that's honestly been haunting me since I first heard the song. When the leader of the bad guys sang something soft and soaked in pain, I heard the echo from a secret hideaway. This line has always baffled me until I put it into the context of the album. Think about the discovery we made about Stressed Out earlier, that Blurryface might actually be hinting at the power he gains from our focus on what he represents. Fear, insecurity, anxiety, depression. All of these things could be described as something soaked in pain, and if Blurryface is the leader of the bad guys, he might be trying to catch Tyler's attention again. Blurryface wants attention, wants to be thought about, so wouldn't ignoring him like this bring him down? Well, from the rest of the song, it seems unlikely. The chorus proceeds to express the same kind of desperate cry for salvation seen in Heavy Dirty Soul, but the next lyric that really stands out, at least in my mind, is 3 lights are lit, but the 4th one's out. There have been countless theories and many wild rages over this line because it's so beautiful and poetic, but so vague and cryptic too. The first overarching theory is that the 4 light bulbs represent Tyler and his siblings. Tyler with his mental struggles with Blurryface being broken or out. There's another more convoluted theory that I want to touch on briefly though, and it has to do with Advent candles. In many Christian churches, the season of Advent is celebrated in the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas with a new candle being lit each Sunday. There are 5 candles total, the 5th being the Christ candle, but the 4 that lead up to it go as follows in no particular order: peace, joy, love, and hope. Now think about the album as a whole. Ride references directly to peace. Pieces of peace and the sun's peace of mind. Tear in My Heart is all about love, about Jenna and their relationship. Not Today makes a jab at how happy all the music sounds, even though the lyrics aren't, which could be seen as a reference to joy, and it's true. The songs 21 Pilots put into the world, for the most part, are very upbeat and happy sounding. Hope is mentioned once, later in Message Man, but hope is described as far from this moment. The missing candle, the light that's gone out, is hope. Think about it. The album as a whole lacks a lot of hope. From start to finish, it's a grueling uphill climb, full of doubt and fear and anger and pain. But this isn't the first time Tyler has gotten out of touch with this feeling. In Semi-Automatic, we get another description of it, which reads, "Taking my only friend I know. He leaves a lot. His name is Hope." The rest of the verse from The Judge tells us that Tyler tries to head south, which you might be interested to know is where birds go during the winter to find warmer climates. But he can't find that warmth that good anymore, instead getting led astray and sidetracked by his imperfections and by his best friend, Doubt. Doubt like the song? Maybe doubt like the feeling installed to you by focusing all of your mental energy on your failings and fears? It's oddly specific and kind of terrifying that he listed Doubt as a best friend. Like, I understand acknowledging your doubt's influence on you, but calling it a friend? So specific that it reminded me of Tyler's pinned tweet, one that's been there for what feels like ages. Keep your friends close and your enemies on the guest list. You'd think your Doubt would be an enemy, right? Is this Tyler acknowledging that Blurryface is getting too close? That he's gaining too much power on him? Well, tune in next time for the second half of my Blurryface album theory. I knew going into this that I'd have way too much to say about all of it to fit into one video, so we're splitting it down the middle. And hey, it worked out evenly since I added Old Goner and kind of glossed over Ride, since that's already been covered in its own full video. So we're 7 for 7. But hey, that's just a theory. A Clique Theory. Thanks for watching.